Hello, everybody. Luke Edison Negron here, Republican nominee for PA 18, representing Pittsburgh in the South Hills. It's been a little while, and today we have someone joining us for another Let's Talk session. And this is a guy who I was introduced in a national context by a friend of mine who's also running for the U.S. House. And we're going to welcome him here in just about 5 seconds.
Oh,
How's it going, man?
man, it's going. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. So this is Raheem. He is a friend of a friend, Christy McLaughlin. Shout out to you, since she is also running for the U.S. House. And yeah, I'll adjust mine a little bit here too. How's it going, man?
It's going, man. It's going. Our country's in an interesting place. I guess I can't really get this right, so I'm just gonna hold it. But I mean, I'm with every other American. You know, we're all just trying to figure out what happens next. You know,
That's
with
right.
so much uncertainty in the current environment.
And what state are you in right now?
I just moved to North Carolina, so I
Okay.
relocated from North Dakota to North Carolina recently. My wife is attending the UNC Chapel Hill MBA program, so I'm
Yeah.
here supporting my wife.
Excellent. And North Carolina is a little bit more of a stable area right now, I'd say, but the whole country, you're absolutely right, and the world. I mean, we're struggling through. So I know you're really passionate about analyzing policy, right? You're a policy analyst. We spoke a little bit about this privately, and something that you've been giving a lot of thought to lately is international policy. And I think we see this being increasingly relevant because of the way that our economies lean on each other, the way that COVID-19 has affected the whole globe. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the struggles and the threats that you see internationally, and then the policy that the U.S. has to address those right now?
All right, so I got to be very clear that at this point, my opinions are my own. It's strictly my own, not that of any employer I'm associated with. Now, with that out of the way, I want to be very clear. I think that for a better part of the last 40, 50 years, we've gotten U.S. foreign policy wrong, right up until Donald Trump was elected.
Mm,
I'm one of those people that absolutely love Donald Trump's foreign policy. I think is one of the actual like diamond in the rough spots in terms of Trump policy.
yeah.
I think he wrongfully gets accosted for challenging our allies to be our allies. When you look at how Germany treats us, and I love the German people. I have German friends, but geez, man, their government, and I can't be mad at them,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
it's
Because
it's
we
what we
let them do it,
call
right?
in public finance, we have this thing called tax exporting, which means if you can get people who aren't your citizens or in your jurisdiction to pay your bills, you're basically a wizard.
Right.
That's like
Right.
the most golden thing ever. And
Exactly.
that's what the Germans and Europeans do. They get us to pay for their defense while they refuse to.
Mhm.
Obama brought up the issue and it fell on deaf ears. And then Trump showed up and he was like, oh, hell no, this isn't going to go on anymore. He's like, you guys are either going to pay up or we're not going to give you the same commitment. It's
So
like,
what
why
would you
should we
say was
care
the
more?
difference there? And so Obama cared about it, and then Trump cared about it too. But how did Trump act differently in a way that actually got results?
Trump called them out. He wasn't
Yeah,
afraid
yeah,
to
I agree.
basically call them out for being cheapsticks, and he's right. So, and then that's when the media was like, "Oh, look, he's ruining our relationship with our allies." No, he's not. I
Mhm.
mean, what kind of friends are these people if they're not willing to literally defend their own countries with us?
Yeah.
Like that's absurd. Every time I hear, like, for example, Donald Trump was right to pull over 12,000 troops out of Germany. It makes no sense for us to still be occupying Germany. When you look at Russian aggression as an Eastern European issue, we should be
Yes.
more
Yes.
aligning with countries like Poland that actually want us there. We should be aligning with countries like Bulgaria, a NATO member, and also where my wife is from. We should be
Hey,
in
there you go.
Eastern
Shout
Europe,
out.
and those are places that we're needed more, and they actually want us. So it's like, why are we still occupying Germany just to give them economic stimulus from American defense spending, which is effectively what it is.
Yes.
So it doesn't make sense. And Trump rightfully comes into the White House and he's like, yo, this doesn't make sense. This is really stupid. And all these so-called policy experts are like, what do you mean you don't understand the value of NATO? No, he doesn't understand why we're being ripped off. And It doesn't actually make sense. Anytime I talk to any kind of policy analyst, foreign policy experts, and I lay out these things to them, they kind of get stupid really fast. It's like, the fact of the matter is, our so-called European allies tariff the crap out of our goods, and they've been doing it forever. There was a little excuse for that, a little excuse from a infant industry type of theory where all of their capital was destroyed after World War II, so we gave them preferential trade.
In the 50s, yes.
Yeah, exactly. It made a little more sense then. I'm still not a fan of that approach, but nonetheless, it made a little more sense then.
Yeah.
They're rich people now. Like, the Germans aren't poor. The French aren't poor. They're developed, wealthy nations. They can pay their own bills. And not only that, they don't need preferential treatment in trade anymore. One of the most revealing moments was, I think it was during the G7 meeting in 2018 or 2017. At the end of it, they were all arguing about tariffs and trade and quotas and trade embargoes and all those kind of things. And at the end of the meeting, Donald Trump says, how about we just get rid of all the tariffs? And they laughed him out of the room. They're not interested in free trade. That's the biggest farce I've ever heard. Donald Trump is more interested in free trade than any of the EU leaders, by far.
Wow.
By far. And it's not even close.
And so would you say that, in your opinion, is that reflected also in the British people through Brexit, through them trying to stand on their own feet and have their own economy and their own economic system that they rely on?
I think Brexit is one of the more beautiful things to happen in the last 10 years.
I agree.
It was an absolute blow to the global elite.
Slap in the face.
The one world government folks.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful to watch, mostly because it was also a peaceful separation. That's something that we can't really do here in the U.S. There's no peaceful means to leave the union. I'm not sure if there should be. I'm not getting into that, but nonetheless. So it was very interesting to see that happen, to see these people see what was happening to their country, that they were getting jacked by literally foreign interests. And these foreign interests were having an unbelievable sway over domestic policy, and they took note of that, and they were like, hell no. And that was the right decision to make. It's like,
and it was a similar decision to what we demanded of NATO, right? With paying your fair share and us looking out for ourselves as a country.
Well, I think it was even bigger for them because it was a fundamental issue of sovereignty. So what you have with the EU is the federalization of the EU. The EU started as a loose confederacy where each state was basically their own country, but now the powers are being more and more delegated to Brussels. And in the process of, the EU itself is basically becoming a country as like former countries like Italy, like France, like whatever, Germany. They are effectively what we would consider states in America. Like the EU courts are becoming more powerful than their home courts. It's like this power transitioning is happening more and more. And that's not actually like a secret. That's an active debate in Europe, is like, should there be more integration? How far should the federalization go? Should they start taking steps back? Is that part of the reason you're seeing this backlash of people trying to start these exit movements? And that those are European politics, and that's for them to decide. I have no dog in that fight in one way or the other. I just think it was interesting that the people of the UK basically woke up and said, "No, we like having a country," and they got smart.
Because it's kind of an indicator of where this sense of national pride stands on a global setting, and it also speaks to Americans, because Americans, I think, see similar threats coming to our shores now through COVID-19, through globalism as a whole, of us losing a lot of our sovereignty, not only as states but then as a country. And
I agree with you 110%. One big reason is because one thing is EU and the EU's regulatory strength. I mean, we're talking about almost 1 billion people here. It's not a significant fraction of people or insignificant share of the global economy. These people have influence, and because of that, they're becoming more and more regulatory towards internet companies like Google, Facebook, and all that kind of stuff. And you're seeing this huge push for European style speech regulation that is going to it's already here in America.
It is
And
absolutely in some states. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's easier for the and sometimes, well, for the most part, it's easier for these platforms to just stick with the stricter regulatory framework of the EU and roll it across their entire platforms instead of trying to have, like, how do you say this, two separate internets for Americans and Europeans. You
Right.
know, like,
Right.
you don't want, that's not something that's like really, really
So
ideal
they're
either.
saying, let's just take the EU standards and apply them all to Americans now.
Effectively. And there are some points where I do agree with the EU, which is like the right to own your own data, the right to be forgotten, those things where, like, if I contact Google or something and I say, give me all the data you have on me, or you have to delete it or something, it's like, I have the right to do that. And that's something the Europeans get right. What they don't get right is speech controls. The European
Compelled
ideal
speech, right?
of, it's not just compelled speech, Jay. European idea of free speech is non-existent. Like, they actually believe hate speech should be legislated, and they don't see any issue with attempting to do so. And I believe hate speech isn't a liberal concept. So I think it's like probably one of the more ignorant notions that is propagated by the intellectual elite. It's intellectually dishonest.
Hate speech leaves the interpretation open to whoever's in power. So, is criticizing Donald Trump hate speech? Is criticizing Barack Obama hate speech? I mean,
Exactly.
This is literally what it could be interpreted as. And as soon as we say, okay, free speech except for hate speech, then that can be interpreted to mean absolutely anything and to justify any regulation, which is just too dangerous for us to accept. And you're exactly right. A lot of Americans don't realize Canada, the UK, Germany, they all have speech laws. They do not.
Exactly. And people are under the impression, like in the UK, for example, and this is still happening, people are being arrested for misgendering trans folks on the internet. Like, if you misgender somebody that is transgendered on the internet in the UK, there's an actual chance police will show up at your door.
Amazing.
If that's not straight up 1984, what is?
You said the wrong word. That's literally
exactly.
You said the wrong word.
That person, violent, you didn't use their preferred pronoun, and that's an issue. And so it's kind of like, that's the type of stuff that is acceptable in Europe, and they look at themselves and say, "Oh, we still have free speech." No, you don't. Yeah. It's an absolute farce. There's no such thing as free speech. I was watching, and this kind of hits home. In France, they were planning a George Floyd protest because the protests were going global. The French government basically said, you can't have the protests. We think it's going to be violent. You can't even do anything that absurd in America. It's like, what? Like, you could have the protest and then it's shut down once it turns violent, but you can't just say you can't have your protest because we think it's going to be violent. Like, that's absurd. But that happens in France regularly. They ask the government for permission to protest.
What is worth protesting.
And
what's the point of having a protest at all if the government can tell you what to and not to protest?
Exactly. And that's something that's not unheard of in Europe, and they don't take issue with that. And in America, that would cause a riot in and of itself.
Yeah, as it should. As it absolutely should. So this is what you were saying earlier about just the common sense behind us having our friends, our international allies, carry their fair share of the weight. That is a very common sense. I don't even
see it as carrying their fair share of the weight. It's not weight. It's just being decent.
Right.
It's being decent. And one of the big myths, and I beat up on my libertarian friends about this, which is the Detroit auto myth, which is like, oh, the Rust Belt had to go into the Rust Belt because American products started to suck. We started to produce crap products and we failed. That's not true.
No, it's not true at all.
We opened our markets up to foreign competition. Yeah. China did not. The EU did not. And they tariffed the crap out of our goods and refused to let us compete in theirs.
And we decided
that's what happened.
Take it.
That's what happened when the auto industries got tired of the unions. They just started building plants in South Carolina and Mississippi. That's what happened there. It's like, that's not why these jobs left the country. The reason some of these jobs left the country is because we had crap trade deals where we allowed very rich advanced nations to take advantage of us for no good reason. And there's no good reason, because if they actually believed in the merits of free trade, if they actually believed in economic liberalization and globalization as it was taught to me as an economist, they would also understand that their tariffs are stupid.
Yes.
But they don't
Yes.
believe any of that stuff. And my thing about it is that I understand why they don't, because Detroit failed, Ohio hurt, Illinois hurt, Gary, Indiana collapsed. But you go to Germany, and their car companies weren't just doing great.
Yeah.
Their unions were also prospering. And they have
Largely because
amazing
of us
unit
and what we
benefits.
paid them through tariffs, through trade.
So how were they able to keep their unions, and their unions didn't destroy their auto sector,
Yeah.
but somehow our unions destroyed ours? It's like, I don't believe that talking point. That's absolute garbage. It's not true. What happened was our dumb politicians sold us out, and Donald Trump was the first to stand up and say that is stupid. And he's right.
On that note, then, why do you think it is that it seems like, in my opinion, there are these elements of Donald Trump's policies that should be bipartisan, by all accounts, like having everyone pay their fair share for NATO? That shouldn't be a partisan policy. It seems very logical. Why do you think it is that we see the radical left coming against absolutely anything that Trump does? So, like, it seems as though the extreme example of Donald Trump saying, hey, oxygen is great, breathe oxygen. Next day, CNN would run an article that says 10 reasons why oxygen is bad for you. Like,
oxygen poisoning dangers.
Exactly. It seems like it is that extreme. Why do you think we can't unify between at least policies that are good for all of us? And I think the example I'd give is when Barack Obama called in the hit on bin Laden, a very risky hit, a lot of right-wingers supported it. A lot of right-wingers said, hey, I don't like Obama, but well done, good move.
So I'm happy you brought that up, but the fundamentals of it is it's tribalism, it's political tribalism at its earnest. What I notice is, and this is kind of one of the things, is because I was a young college leftist once. I'm 27 years old now, so it's like
me too.
I came from, and a lot of people are like amazed because it's like I'm a Black Southerner. I'm university educated. I got a master's, all that good stuff. And people are like, "Oh, you're so conservative." And it's like, when I went to university, I started to understand how much of it was absolute BS. Yeah. How much of these professors were in ivory towers. But in the process of, I guess what I realized was they BS you into your head of thinking that you're in some epic good versus evil battle, right? And you're standing on the side of good. So it's like, when you understand, like when they've invested so much into making Donald Trump this ultimate evil, agreeing with Donald Trump is damn near like saying the devil himself is right. You can't do it. Wow. They're not in a mental space where they could ever agree with anything Donald Trump does. And that's why I have Black friends that are more than content to go vote for mass incarceration Joe after Donald Trump was the first president to actually sign into law comprehensive criminal justice reform. And they're going to go and vote for the guy who locked up all of our people. And they're going to go, and then you're going to have Hispanics that are going to go up and show up for and support the remnants of an administration that deported way more than Donald Trump is even somewhat on par to hit. And they don't care. And they don't care that Biden defended children in cages. They don't care, because those things were all super evil when Donald Trump so much as talked about them. When Biden and Obama did them, it was okay. I get to hear about Ukraine and the aid to the Ukraine being, I don't know, not kind of sort of late, but not really. And that's an impeachable offense. But the Obama administration bombed a hospital with Doctors with No Borders and killed a bunch of innocent people, and literally got away with saying
silence. Right. Right.
And then I keep being told, like, this Trump administration is this new level of evil and corruption and demented. And I was like, where were you people from 2008 to 2016? Because I was even on the left and I know what was going on. Wow. There was a few whispers about the drone program, but they all went silent.
Yep.
Because the left is in the state of delusion where they believe themselves to be this ultimate good. and everybody else to be this ultimate evil. And they get that way because they say things that like are very idealistic and lofty. Like no one should be homeless. It's like, oh, well, of course we all agree with that. We
So
just
it's
don't
great
necessarily
messaging.
believe your
It sounds
policy
good.
will get us there. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I think that's the sad truth of so many modern politics is that it's all about marketing. Your marketing, your messaging, it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you
Oh,
can sell it
absolutely.
well. So I'm gonna have to go in a few minutes. I want you to give us a closing thought though. How do you think we can bridge some of that gap that you just addressed, and I think really well? How can we reach some of those kids who were where you were back in college, who are saying, we believe we're on the side of good. We believe that the evil is anything that comes out of Donald Trump. We don't think through the issues. It's just that's the bad side. How do
Well,
you
to
suggest bridging that gap?
the first thing that needs to happen is conservatives need to stop supporting these indoctrination systems. Conservative legislators vote to give gazillions of dollars away to university systems
Yeah.
to literally run America hating, America bashing programs and get America bashing scholars
Yeah.
from all over the world to come here and bash America. We do the same thing. We give to the UN money to do the same thing. First,
Yeah.
so let's literally stop funding ideological subversion of our own national values. So like that might be a smart idea just moving forward. And
Excuse me.
also conservative donors, if you're a conservative and you're still donating to universities, you might be an idiot.
To
I don't
Yale
think
or Harvard, yeah, I would agree. Well
very
said.
few schools you could defend. Very few schools. And I say that because one thing is going to happen is they're going to come back in 10 or 15 years and they're going to be like, oh, well, this guy was critical of gay marriage, or this guy was critical of this program, or this guy was critical of that. They didn't, they weren't for socialized medicine, whatever this progressive world we live in the future, however you want to look at it. They're going to find something to nitpick in your
Yeah.
past. And then they're going to go and they're going to take down your statue. They're going to rip your name off the building, but they're going to keep your millions of dollars of donation.
Of course. Of
So
course.
it's like you're an absolute idiot. That's no way to build a legacy. That's no way to leave a memory.
Yes.
So it's like first and foremost, there's a lot of think tanks. There's a lot of like Second Amendment Foundation. There's a lot of pro-life organizations that you could actually endow with these funds that will actually fight to keep conservative ideals alive and champion them. And that's something that you want to do. But these indoctrination mills is even all the way to North Dakota, man. I ran into it there. It doesn't matter. Every single state, the legislatures, these conservative legislatures write blind checks to these anti-American, just absolutely bashful, angry leftists, and they do it, and they literally fund the indoctrination machine they're trying to fight. And I'm like, you have to stop doing that. State funding should be restricted to the STEM fields only. I'm just coming out and saying it. It should be STEM only. And that's going to upset some of the econ kids, and I don't care.
It's interesting you say
only.
this because I literally heard this suggested yesterday for the first time, I think, and you're the second person, though, in like 2 days who has suggested this, and I think that's a really possible solution. I think the other possible step forward is to say simply, if you receive state funding, you play by constitutional rules, which means you support free speech on campus, and you support a few very basic boxes which need to be checked. We're going to have to go in a second here, but where can people who want to ask you questions about the economic status of America in the world, how to relate to the world, and how to relate to other young people, where can they talk to you? Here on IG?
Well, you can reach me on Instagram here. I don't like Twitter that much, so I write a lot. So if you just put in my name, Raheem Williams, you'll find my work and likely my email. So
awesome.
So Raheem Williams 904@gmail.com. I might respond, I might not. It really depends on the level of absurdity of your emails.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, we're all in that boat these days, I think, with the inundation of social media and messages everywhere. I will tag you down below as well. I'll post this onto IGTV. Dude, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts. And I think those are some really good practical perspectives and steps forward that hopefully will lead just a few people to more of a mindset of unity and of logic, as opposed to that very emotional thinking that we were both talking about.
All right, man. Take care.
Hey, take it easy, guys. I'll see you, Raheem. Stay safe.